welcome to another Sanctuary Sunday. Sanctuary, yes, the day where I try to cover something other than war games. Today is a special Sanctuary Sunday because it's a themed Sanctuary Sunday, and it's a top secret Sanctuary Sunday where I am covering spy-related games and books, and in this episode, role-playing games. Yes, spy-based or spy-themed role-playing games have been in and around my hobby or my interest for quite some time. In fact, I bought Top Secret before I ever got a Dungeons and Dragons book. The first role-playing game I ever played was Traveler, and then I picked up Top Secret, and then started playing some Dungeons and Dragons, and the rest, as they say, is history. Now, some of these other games here are just some of the games I've picked up over the years on that kind of have a spy theme or a spy based role-playing game. And I'll cover, talk about them briefly, but also talk about some, spy adjacent or games that allow for espionage and spy type role-playing. So without further ado, let's start with the one that started it all, and that is Top Secret. So Top Secret here was from a TSR, and I remember seeing this, I think it was at like a J.C. Penney's. It was near Christmas time, and they would have, some just a random selection of items, for kids and men, and that are, set in the middle of the store, where most of the store was, of course, women's clothing and stuff like that. And there was a little section where, they could try to entice men folk, or more importantly, kids. And I saw this, and this just looked amazing. I mean, you got a passport on here. You've got a Beretta. I mean, this is some foreign currency. I just had to get this. And as I said, I had played Traveler, so the role-playing bug had kind of got to me, and so I picked this up. And this is the original box. Let's see. This is you can see it's a little faded on there from a little bit of shelfware, but read and played this and game mastered this and lent this to somebody, and I mean this was pure joy. Now this is a little bit of a complicated role-playing game, and this is not as streamlined as some of the ones we have today. But it's it's loosely based kind of on the Dungeons and Dragons type of character, rolling up loosely, meaning that you roll up a character, but the game itself, the way you roll up the character and the subject matter is totally different, totally foreign. There's a little ad for Spycraft, the card game, which, Spycraft, the role-playing game, we'll get to in a second here. I still have some of my old sheets in here. That's something else, I think. But here, here's the rules that came with this. 3 or more players, so you just couldn't play this with 2, but I did. And the combat system was interesting. It wasn't completely realistic because James Bond never dies. Well, spoiler alert. Let's not talk about that. So you can't have a game where you're rolling up a character and they're gonna die in the first episode. So the combat system was a little bit different. It was interesting. It came in this thinner type paper instead of like the mounted books or the hardback books from Dungeons and Dragons fame. But it was a good game. It was a little different, a little bit more complex on just how they were doing stuff, because it was modern, right? It was modern combat and modern espionage and all the stuff that goes along with that. The rules for hand-to-hand were a little bit wonky in this game as well. And then I picked up the mission that came with it was Operation Spreckenhausenstelle, codename Pisces. And this was an okay first mission. It was well done. And then I played that a few times, or game mastered that, and then picked up Operation Rapid Strike. And then they had, several of these missions, kind of like what you did for Dungeons and Dragons. TSR was really good at getting stuff out, but they didn't have the same level of exposure or of getting these out as the Dungeons and Dragons type of scenarios. And this was an interesting, mission. And of course, you had some, graphics in there from time to time. And of course, inside the cover is the maps of the different areas that you need to go to. But I liked Top Secret. Looking back on it, and when we get to some of these other games, it just wasn't this. It wasn't as streamlined or as direct as some of these other games that came on after the fact, right? But still one of my first loves in the spy game space. And I liked it so much, but I couldn't find anybody to play that, so I didn't have a regular gaming group, so I found some solo stuff. So this is Final Bug. This is a solo operation, so this is based on the Top Secret system, and Top Secret kind of evolved into this Top Secret SI. And so this was loosely based on the original system, but it's a standalone game. It's kind of like almost like a choose your own adventure type of game book. There's all these different paragraph sections, narrative sections you're going to go to, and then it'll tell you where to go next. And but there is definitely a role-playing aspect to it. You still roll up a character, and you're going to get items, and you got to keep track of stuff. In fact, there's little handouts that come with the game that allow that you get at certain times and let you help you resolve the case. God, this one's kind of stuck in there. Don't want to necessarily rip it out, but you've got like a whole case file in there, almost like some of the nowadays, we have a lot of those mystery or murder games that come in a pack where you just it's kind of like a solve it pack, or like a escape room type situations. Well, this came out long before any of those. I don't even know if I've got a copyright on this, but this is 88. So this is 1988, and this was a nice little mission here. Quite a big thickness, and this was $10 in '88. So anyway, so that is my Top Secret addition to spy role-playing games. Next came Spycraft. I got this later on. This is based off the D20 system, and in some respects kind of piggybacks a little bit off D20 Modern. Basically, D20 Modern is kind of taking the Dungeons and Dragons aspect and making it, modern, right? Taking all the general rules and having the D20 based type of system and making it a little bit more universal. I kind of looked at this as kind of like a GURPS. It's like the D20 GURPS. This is more of a modern setting where you can take this into a lot of different areas, and including you can take this into, espionage. And Spycraft basically focuses on spycraft, under this namesake here. Now, there might be, and I'm sorry I'm a miss on here, but I think Spycraft might have been like a computer game or video game, but I know there's been several iterations. There's this role-playing game. There's at least there's a collectible card game. There's another base card game. You might see that, or by the time I film this, you probably have already seen it, because I've already done my board game or my game spy episode. So take a look at that. I'll put a link to that in this so that you can see some of the different Spycraft stuff. But this is an interesting book, and it's all espionage, unlike Modern is, can go a lot of different directions. This is all espionage, and but it's all based on the D20 system. So it's very, they are compatible with each other. And this is an okay game. This gets into, this is a little bit more of kind of a, I hate to say D&D look, but it's more of a not a full realistic look at espionage. Because who really wants to get into a real game of espionage, right? We all want a little bit of James Bond and a little bit of I say fantasy, but not not real or not completely real, and that's what this game really does for using the spycraft universe. I'll take a step back for a second. I mean, I don't have it, but the second spy-based role-playing game I played was the James Bond, or the 007 system from Victory Games, which was one of their more successful titles. I think it did very well. But I had a friend of mine that had that in high school and played it with him, and then he got a couple of the different missions or expansions, and we played that quite a bit, and that was an interesting game. And again, it was definitely different than Top Secret. It had a little bit better system, as I recall. But this spycraft is again based on kind of D20 modern, and is based on kind of the whole Dungeons and Dragons. I would say this is closer to like the 3.5 or 3.5 edition of D&D and the D20 system and all that. But I mean, again, fine system, and it came up with some expansions too. Now I picked all these things up after the fact. So I got these, kind of out of the bargain bin, for lack of a better term. But they had like a most wanted, so this is all different villains that you can go after. This is Modern Arms Guide, and that's relatively thick there because you have to have all your various modern arms, which is always something that is important for a spy, right? And I remember there was something like this for the James Bond system too. This is Gentleman's Agreement. This is actually an adventure, of pretty good one here, where it's kind of going through a lot of different stuff, and so pretty interesting. Full-on adventure or mission, maybe is what the better way to say it, in the spy world. And then you have Soldier, Wheelman. So those are two of the classes. The classes that you get in Spycraft are somewhat interesting. It kind of reminds me a little bit of kind of like the A-Team, maybe, because you had the let's see, where are those classes? You had the Face Man, which kind of reminds me of the Face Man from A-Team. The Fixer, the Point Man, the Snoop, the Soldier, and the Wheelman. So those are your six major classes that you have. And then what this does, the Soldier and Wheelman, this kind of makes prestige classes. If you're familiar with Dungeons and Dragons 3.0 or 3.5, you have the prestige classes, and so this adds prestige classes for Soldier and Wheelman. And I imagine they had prestige classes for these other ones. I just picked these up. I picked these up within the last probably picked these up within the last 5 or 6 years, and again, out of bargain bins and clearance and sales and stuff like that, because none of this is really supported anymore. So there might be other books for those others, but I found this one, and then the Soldier is pretty good. The Soldier's the muscle, the Wheelman's, of course, the Wheelman, right? I think it's self-explanatory, but that includes not only cars but pilots of any vehicle, mini subs. Too soon. Airplanes, anything like that. So again, the Spycraft kind of has a little bit of a James Bond feel to it. Top Secret Top Secret wasn't as James Bond esque as you would think, and then of course 007 came out, and was all James Bond. But but Spycraft does feel a little bit closer to that. Then this right here, there's our free RPG day that comes every year for the last several years, and I'm always picking up stuff there, either in store or Noble Knight always has like a 1 cent sale. And spoiler alert, I might be doing some shorts on 1 cent sale stuff that I picked up this year, which is pretty cool stuff. But this was a introductory game kit for Conspiracy X, which is basically the X-Files. So it's not as much spy. It's probably more spy adjacent. But there's you have agents in here, and there's kind of a conspiracy, and there's stuff going on. But it's Conspiracy X. It's kind of they're dealing with aliens or investigating aliens, and so it very much is kind of an X-Files type role-playing game there. Speaking of other adjacent games to that you can play, espionage or spies or the like. One of my earliest ones was Lords of Creation. Now this was an Avalon Hill game, and this was basically just a sandbox game, right? You could do anything in this. In fact, you become a Lord of Creation. You could eventually get to the level of being, demigod, or dare I say God, or time traveler, or whatever. I mean, there was no boundaries to Lords of the Creation, but there was a lot of skill sets and settings that you could you could play this as a spy game, or at least start out as a spy game, and then see where it takes you. But this was really an RPG Sandlot, and I don't have anybody ever talk about this game. I liked it. A friend of mine got it. We played. I think the first scenario we played was the Horn of Roland, which was expansion. There was a couple expansions for this, Horn of Roland and a Megatron. And Horn of Roland, as you can see, gets somewhat into the fantasy, and Megatron was more, sci-fi and space type stuff. But the Lord of the Creations, the base box, I mean, you could take this anywhere. I mean, there was zero limitation. I mean, there was this really was GURPS. I don't think GURPS had come out when this came out. I don't know what the copyright is on this. I'd have to look that up. But the 1983. So this is 1983, and this was basically, again, for the third time, I guess, sandbox, role-playing game sandbox. You can take this anywhere. And in fact, like this Horde of Roland, you start off as a detective. You're investigating like a murder, and you start off as a detective, and all of a sudden you get swept into this, kind of a fantasy portal time kind of thing. Megatron is, again, more, as you can see from the cover, a little bit more space-based. But you can start anywhere with this and start as a spy and take it that direction or what have you. And I really enjoyed this game. It just it was kind of hard to get your brain around because you could go anywhere, right? So like D&D is kind of focused on fantasy, and Travelers focused on sci-fi, and Gamma World was focused on like post-apocalyptic mutants. So once you have that world, you can fit stuff within it. This one, you had to do some thinking on and impose your own limitations to a point on how you wanted this to go. Another game that is kind of spy adjacent that I have and that I've covered is G.I. Joe, the role-playing game. This again is more G.I. Joe, right? It's a fighting and more military type actions in a kind of almost a comic book or cartoonish type way. However, there's room for espionage in here, and of course there's double agents and double dealings and all kinds of stuff that goes in here. And so this can kind of fit into the adjacent world to espionage. But if you want to, I think you can probably still find some of the spycraft stuff if you're interested in it. But if you can find the old Top Secret, that's where I might start off. Anyway, that's what I have for you today on Sanctuary Sunday, my spy RPG edition. Love to know your thoughts. Which spy games did you play? I wish I'd gotten a copy of the old 007 game from Victory Games, but my friend had that. What spy games do you guys play? Or do you just take like other systems that are more universal like GURPS and just, if you want to have a spy scenario, you can tailor it towards that. I'd love to know your thoughts on any of that. Anyway, thanks you so much for stopping by. The best way I know you stopped by is, you guessed it, leave me a comment. Let me know what you're thinking on any of the role-playing games you played or what you've played over time, what your experience is with any of these, or more importantly, what else is out there? What else out there that you think is good in an espionage or spy setting? Thanks all. Thanks for watching.